I am Kita and I am back with another video. It's been a while, it's been a long while since I've been on this channel. And I'm going to quickly tell y'all why. And then I'm going to get to the topic of discussion in this video. Okay, so the reason why it has been far and few in between that you have seen, y'all know I'm a rapper, so I got to rhyme, right? Seen me, my face, my lovely face, girl. Um, because my purpose is still being revealed to me, but I do believe it has a lot to do with justice. I have been through so many unjust and unjust things in my life. I have had to fight so much injustice in my life. From time I was young, I have always had to fight injustice. For me, the things that I don't I try to be level-headed and look at other perspectives, but I really don't believe that I deserve them. I did not deserve these things to happen to me that did happen to me. Right? And it kind of ties into this topic here. But I believe my passion, I know my passion. I love it. I love it. I love fighting for justice. But I believe my purpose, because it is still being revealed to me what exactly I'm supposed to be doing, is justice. So for me, I fight for justice. I do have a TikTok where it is literally all about criminal justice reform, prison reform, and for fighting wrongful conviction cases. But that was all spawned by my husband being wrongfully incarcerated for decades and still incarcerated wrongfully. So my own troubles in life led to me fighting for others' freedom. So I spent a lot of time over there on my TikTok, and I do have a main YouTube channel. And I had to start this one separately because I didn't want this one to be suppressed by the algorithm just because of what I was talking about on that channel. Now, justice is something that everybody wants. Everybody desires to be treated justly and fairly. We want justice, but we do not care. Most of us don't care if the next person gets justice. But injustice done to one is injustice done to all of us. So it really makes no sense. But people are very self-centered, as you know, in this day and age and in this world. We only care if we're good, then we think everything is all good, not knowing that it's not all good because your neighbor's not all good, right? So I spend a lot of time on the YouTube and now specifically the TikTok because TikTok is growing faster than the YouTube, but both are difficult to grow because fighting for justice is going to be suppressed through, these social media streets. In social media streets, you have to kind of can't say too much, right? And you definitely can't say too much against the norm. Against the norm. If you're going against the norm, it is an uphill battle, and it will be difficult for you to gain traction. Now, I do see a lot of chosen one content taking off, which that also has, I've analyzed that. I'm like, wow, like, okay, so if this whole social media is basically the devil's playground, why are so many that's doing chosen one content getting big? And I always think about things and then I think about the why of it. I am a very deep critical thinker. Girl, I'm gonna be for hours trying to figure out, well, why is that like that? Well, how if this is like that? That don't make sense to me. Like, how you telling me this is this, but look at what happened. Those things don't add up to that. Like, girl, I am very deep and critical with thinking. Girl, my mind never stops. It never stops. But yeah, so it's harder, and I separated this channel because I too want to speak about my experiences. I don't foresee that it would be the difficult climb that breaking a wrongful conviction is. That they don't want that out of wraps. They want that to stay sealed and injustice to stay under wraps, right? So I don't think this would be as difficult. So I separated the two. But I do spend a lot more time over there, which is crazy because that's like my heart. But my mind knows that it's going to be very hard to do that. And you're going to be spinning your wheels faster and harder over there than to just start something else and just put your time into it. If y'all don't know, I'm an excellent artist in all types of sorts. I got to start bringing some of my videos that I have taken from my other channel that do pertain to this chosen one niche. You can see my art. I am excellent in art. It is a God given gift. And I was always like, I could just literally get online and just draw, and I could clearly just have a big community, be monetized, making, because my goal is to get out of the 9 to 5 rat race, break free of the matrix, do my art, fight for justice, and just live without always having to just survive, right? Because that 9 to 5 to me just keeps you in survival mode. It works for some people, but it doesn't work for me. I am disabled as well, and soon will not even be able to be part of that 9 to 5 rat race. So if I don't find something soon, you know. But, anyways, let's get to the topic. So I seen a video a while back, and the moment I seen that video, I was getting ready for work, and I wanted to review it right then and there. But like I say, I'm juggling a YouTube, I'm juggling TikTok, and I'm basically doing, I'm an advocate, but I'm doing everything to try to free my husband, right? Which takes a lot of work, a lot of networking, a whole bunch of, it's almost an impossible task. I'll never say it's impossible fully because God still has the final say um, in my husband's judgment, but it's very difficult. It's almost impossible, right? And he is 23 years in on his 40-year wrongful conviction. So we kind of losing the battle right now, but still gonna fight because that I do believe is the purpose that God gave me. It's a very difficult purpose. And many times I'm like, why was this my purpose? But Heavenly Father must have seen that I was fit for the job, right? But I seen this video from Stephanie P. Smith. I'm going to link the video in the description box below. And in this video, she was talking about the difference between victim mentality and being a victim. Now, that comes up a lot when you're talking about criminal justice reform and prison reform. And a lot when you're talking about reparations. People hate that topic of reparations. They really just want you to, they say, hey, I didn't personally do this to your people, and I should not have to pay for what my ancestors did to your people. But what people fail to realize is that they're not in the same manner doing this to melanated people, not in the same ways. Now it is more covert the way that they do it. And they get people to participate in it unbeknownst to themselves, even participating in it. They don't even know that they're participating in the oppression of others. They have no clue how they're participating in it, but they are. And it's because the system is systematic, right? It's systematic. The oppression is systematic in almost every system of this world. And when you are a part of the system, you're upholding the values of the system. So the values of the system oppress, and if you're part of it, you are actively oppressing, even though it might be unbeknownst to yourself. So until we change or reform these systems, such as the criminal justice, which I don't even know why we call it justice, take that word out, because it ain't no justice in it, system, the prison system, so much injustice there. And many say they don't care because it's not them in there, not knowing many wrongfully convicted people are in prison. That is actually rising, rising. It is so many. And then it's more than we could even know because it's hard to break a wrongful conviction story. They make it almost difficult, like almost impossible, right? So you actually could be in one of those beds, but you don't care, right? Because you somehow, the system made you believe that it's for those bad people. And because you're not a bad person, it doesn't affect you when it actually does. So the system is playing tricks on you. Really, for real. It is. But within it, they tell you just don't be a criminal. Just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Stop looking for a handout. And they'll tell you all types of things like that. Basically, turning you into a victim. When you are saying, you're simply stating how the actions of others have suppressed and oppressed you and your previous generations. And you need to be made whole. You need to first be set free. And then you need to be made whole so that you can live and thrive just as freely as some others can. See, it's all done invisibly. So you can't see the way they're binding and oppressing me because it's not physical oppression anymore. It is done systematically and mentally. So you can't see that if I'm being oppressed, right? So you could stand two people next to each other, and one's being oppressed by a system, and one is not. And the one that is growing, they could say, "See, that person's doing everything. They came here from another country. They did this. They set up that, and you see how they grew. Look, that's just you complaining. Stop complaining. Pull yourself up. Do what that person did, not knowing this person is oppressed and that person's not." So if you take the shackles of oppression off of this person could grow like the other person. But they don't see the oppression being applied to the first person, right? So they're gonna say you're just being a victim. Get out of that victim mentality. Stop being a victim. Just stop making excuses. Stop complaining. They love to say that. Stop complaining. And just get up and get a job or something like that. Like as if a job makes any difference in this climate. You really got to get up and get three jobs to make ends barely meet but barely. So you can't just get up and get a job. You got to get up and get three jobs, which means you have no time for nothing else, which I do believe is the plot of the enemy to keep people occupied so they never live in their purposes. But that's just my opinion. And honestly, I remember a time, and it's so crazy. Like you literally have all the evidence in front of you. You know I like justice. I love justice. Look back. How is it? Now I'm just gonna say this one thing, and then I'm gonna get back to that. How is it that maybe in the 50s ish, a whole family survived off of one man's income? 60s ish, women started working. And then a whole family survived off of two people's income, right? Just one mother, one father working. They made it. And they had extra money. There was some middle class. Where's that at? I grew up middle class and now I'm poor. Like, how do you go from one class to go down? Usually you go up in class. There's no more middle class. But they usually have monies left over off of only the mother working, father working, right? Into the 70s. Let's get to the 80s. Started seeing a lot more single parent homes. Single parent homes. So now because you're a single parent, that was most times why you had to get a second job because you're missing the other parent. So you need that second income to supplement where that other parent was, right? Even in my time when I started working in the early 2000s, you literally only needed one job and you might have gotten a second job to get ahead, but you didn't always work that second job. You might have did it for like special occasions to get up your money or to get ahead or something like that, but you did not have to work two jobs consecutively to barely make it, right? Wasn't like that. Then we get past the 2000s. So in 2020, that's when it really just exponentially, because that's when rent. Y'all didn't see, am I the only one that noticed this? Like literally in Orlando, rent used to be $700 for two bedrooms. And now, 2020, 2024, just four years later, rent for one bedroom can be from 1,300 to 2,000 something dollars. Like, how many times is that? Now, you know we ain't made that much more money. They raised us some, which I always used to oppose when they raised the minimum wage, because from my observation and my thinking, I'm like, hey, every time they raise the minimum wage, God dog it, they raise everything else substantially higher. So you get a raise, but you get less. And people didn't ever put those two things together. You get less. So now I make the most I ever made in my life, and I'm the brokest I have ever been in my life. I promise you, when I get paid, I might have an extra couple dollars to buy me a cup of coffee. Other than that, like I said, I live from paycheck to no check. And I'm disabled, so I can't get that second job like everybody else. That's why I'm trying to make it off of my art before, my hands are completely gone. Trying to build something outside of this, because I know I can't keep up with this work climate of getting 2 and 3 jobs. Where I work at, I literally see there's a food court across from me. And I promise you, and we're like the only ones that have a restroom where we're at. And it is people that work a full shift. They go in our restroom, they change, and they go back to the food court at a different location. It is at least 3 to 4 of them that work at both of those locations. 8 hours. Go change in the bathroom, 8 hours. If they have family at home, what family are they seeing? You have a house that you're paying, or apartment that you're paying for. When do you see your apartment? When do you upkeep your apartment? When do you clean your apartment? When do you exercise? When do you stay in your apartment and cook on your stove? When do you get to do all those things? Because now you're working 2 and 3 jobs. So, oh, sorry. I didn't do don't disturb, so I got disturbed. So I don't know. I am I the only one that sees this? Because I promise you, everyone else is just like, oh, so I just got to get another job. Oh, I just got to get a roommate. Oh, I just got to get 3 or 4 roommates, and we're just kind of going along with the flow as they crank it up on us to where we almost can't even afford to live. Yeah, so I know it's got to be something more than just getting me a job that's going to get me up out of this. That's why I ain't even worrying about going to get them. You know what the job got me? Job got me injured permanently. The job got me to where I could barely move my hands. The job got me like bad off just from all that working. Many people suffering from back injuries. Truck drivers talking about their tail, like they got sciatica and they can't even feel their tailbone from working and have not hardly anything to show from what they have done for years and years of hard work, hard labor. But that wasn't the point. So, but it can be an example. So, as I'm talking about this, you could label me and say, stop being a victim. Get out of that victim mentality. Stop making excuses and just go get a job. So the whole the whole gist of it was from Stephanie P. Smith's video. There is a difference between the victim mentality and being an actual victim. An actual victim, something happened to you, something unjustly, that's like even when I advocate for my husband, they they beat me up. They took my husband out my household when he was raising his daughter. Like literally, you broke my family for nothing to fill your bed. You broke a whole family up, caused my daughter all this, and myself, all and him, all this mental anguish for nothing. That's a victim. The system victimized our family. And when I talk about it, so that I can possibly find someone that can help me get justice, because that's the only reason I'm doing it. And also, well, a second reason is to be a light to others that feel so hopeless in the same situation, because now I found out there's many, and give them hope that they can fight. But that's a victim. You victimized our family. And now you want me to shut up and stop being a victim and just get over it. Just move on. Right? So the difference between being a victim and the victim mentality. Now, the victim mentality is when you actually did something to put yourself in that situation. It was your own doing. It's like you found the best job and you just wouldn't be on time to work. You found a job that would pay all your bills and you just, oh, I'm too tired to get up out of bed. You wouldn't get up out of bed and go clock in. Or you had that great man for your husband, for your family to take care of the kids, and you seen somebody that looked cuter and you wanted to just follow and chase after him, and now it didn't work out over there, so now you're crying about how your family's broken up. See, that would be victim mentality. It is your own cause of where you are, and now you're complaining. That's the difference between victim and victim mentality. And I love the video. Thank you so much, Stephanie P. Smith, for making this video. And I mean, it really helps me because I've never heard nobody explain the difference. I always knew it was a difference because that word victim has been weaponized against me so much in my life. And it started with my parent. My parent. I grew up, if y'all watch some of my videos, if you don't, I'm going to synopsize in like one little paraphrase, whatever. I grew up as the black sheep. I grew up as the scapegoat child. I was one of 5 sisters, 1/5 of 5 sisters. Everything was my fault. That even if the actions of myself and the actions of my siblings, no matter what, they would cultivate it around to where it had to be my fault. And when I would speak up for myself, and when I would say, hey, mom, but look what my sister did. She did this. Like, I was told, Kita, you're just playing the victim. You're always playing the victim. Those words were always thrown in my face, and I always felt like I never got justice. Stop being a victim. And my mother used to say it so much. God rest her soul. So it is hard for me to talk about this. So I wish we could have talked it out. I grew up in a very similar to a narcissistic dynamic, but my mother was not narcissistic, right? I think she had some of the, she grew up in a narcissistic household. And you know how you start kind of taking on a little bit of the traits? I forgot the word they have for it. But because of how she grew up and her trauma, I believe it kind of spilt over to how she raised us, right? In her household, growing up, it was a pick. It was a favorite. In my case, it was multiple favorites, and I was just the one unfavored. But she wasn't narcissistic, but because that spirit dwelled in the family line so long, it kind of still took effect in my home, right? And it attacked me. Everything was my fault to the point where I just felt so low. I was bullied, and I justified being bullied because I deserve it because I'm so low. I'm not good enough to be loved. Not even my parents, which I know they did love me, they just didn't know how to properly love me, right? But that was the first thing thrown at me. I'm being a victim. I'm being a victim. I don't care. I could never address anything. I could never say my side. I could never say how I felt. If I did, I was being a victim. And my mother would always say, you just playing victim. So I would be like, just run me the blame. Okay, it's my fault. It's my fault. And then people started calling me negative. I'm like, well, I can't win for losing. When I try to state my claim and show you how things are being done to me, I'm just being a victim. But then when I say, okay, whatever, it's my fault anyway, I'm always the one wrong. Just, okay, give me the blame. I'm told I'm negative. So I didn't know, I couldn't do anything right. Nothing right. Nothing. Let them tell you. I was always wrong. I was always, and I used to try so, and I still do try so hard, but now I'm getting to the point where I know no matter what I do, I'm never going to please them. I'm never going to do the right thing. I'm never going to say the right thing, so I don't try as hard to. But I literally used to think about, like overthink before any word comes out my mouth, because you can't take words back. And still, oh, you hurt my feelings. You said this, like, and I'm like, I barely even said anything. So everything was my fault. I was always being a victim. Um, e- I don't know. I was never justified, never said, okay, you are right in this situation. This shouldn't have never happened. Nothing. And I'm going to give you plenty of videos to make examples out of this, right? And this is stuff that I've always had to just leave inside of me and just fester and just hold on to these feelings, because I was a loner. I couldn't find no true friends. I barely had any family. And then out of the family, most people were on this narcissistic spirited BS, right? So I always felt alone. And because my mother would say that so much, and she would say it around my little siblings, they started saying it. You're just playing victim. Like literally, they would do something intentionally to me, because they knew no matter what, when we bring this to mom to be for justice, because moms are like the judge. When the judge says who's right and wrong, they already know mom's gonna call it that they're right and I'm wrong. So they would say, see, you just being the victim. Mom always said you was the victim. You always the victim. It used to torment me so bad. And that video just really just, it breaks it down so well. Sometimes you feel something, but you don't know how to express it yourself. So it's so beautiful when somebody else puts it in words. Even when my mother passed, even once my mother passed, one of my little sisters would always, no matter what, she just recently did this. She literally starts off with me, and I think I made a video about that. That might be the last video I released. And if I could find it, I'll put it in the description box. She starts with me, like literally, I don't bother nobody. I avoid human contact, honestly, because I already know, like, and the first thing she says, which this is how I know this is a spirit. When that word comes up, I know that's that spirit trying to talk through that person. It's not that person, it's that spirit. She says, you always was the victim. And it's taken everything in me to just leave this conversation, because I know I'm not talking to you, my sister. I'm talking to this nasty spirit within you. Yes, but I'm so glad that she made this video that's breaking it down, the difference between a victim, a true victim, something actually happened to you. You have damage from what happened and you're trying to heal from what happened, than victim mentality where you're causing it. Like a lot of times narcissists cause their own trouble and then they turn it on you and they play the role of the victim. Narcissists play the victim and the person that caused the issue in the first place. They play both sides. There's a difference between that. And I think that's what, by my mother growing up in that system, because like I said, one of my biggest narcissistic abusers was my aunt, which is my mother's sister. And not only did she abuse me narcissistically, she abused my mother narcissistically. So when she was saying, you always the victim, it's like that's how her sister was, always the victim. And she was just translating it to me, though I was being made the victim. And I'm just hollering out because you're hurting me. She made us the same. She made it the same situation, and it's not. But it's freeing to let these feelings go finally. But it also hurts because I never You know, when you live under those dynamics, you can never, you want to just talk it out. You want to be heard. You want to hear what they got to say. You want them to actually hear you, not just pause so they can talk over you and not. You want to be heard so we can squash this and get on with our life. Like, as you see, me and my mother, we got to a certain point in our relationship, but we didn't get to have the relationship we could have had. And she's gone. So we never can have that relationship. But if we ever could have just talked it out for real without all of this, when you're in narcissistic dynamics, you have to play all these games. You have to always keep their mask intact. You can't address what really happens. Like, we can't address the true actions of my sister. And I think my parents used to do that as well, because they knew how much my sisters acted out and how unruly they were. It was just easier to place the blame on me and address me because I didn't act out like that. It was just easier to attach the blame to me. And I think that's really what I know. They know it really wasn't me. Even my father says I was his easiest. He never had no trouble out of me. But going back to growing up, y'all made me feel like I was just. So I think it was just easier to blame me. I was, like I say, the scapegoat. Somebody has to take the blame. So let's just put the blame on Keita, because this other one is going to react if we put the blame on them. But thank you so much, Stephanie, for making that video. It made things more clearer for me, and I hope it helps many others. Thank you. Talk to y'all later.